Hello everyone and welcome to the review and overview of the RadioLink RC4GS transmitter. This is mostly intended for being used in RC cars and RC boats, and it has some advantages over similar products, especially over the FlySky GT3 series, because it has a much greater range. This can go up to 400 meters, and the best of it, it comes with gyro integrated receiver. So that small receiver that you get inside the box with this transmitter also has a built-in gyro, and I'm going to show you what a gyro does. You can also check the videos that I'm going to link here for the FlySky transmitter and for a gyro installed on the car, and you can see that car on action on snow. It drives like it's on rails. You can let go of the steering, the car will simply go straight, it will not slide, it will not drift. So it's amazing when you integrate a gyro onto a truck. It makes a big improvement. So the fact is that buying this type of receiver for this transmitter will bring you that gyro integrated into the receiver, and you will get rid of adding extra wires and buying extra gyro for your car. And of course it has a lot of other features such as high voltage servos, it has programmable mixes, it has LCD, a lot of things, but I'm going to stop talking about the features and I'm going to show you the features and how they work. And let's take this thing out of the box quickly. And that's the transmitter. It comes with CD, and it's labeled with RadioLink, something that you don't see very often. It's usually a Panda CD there. And this tiny receiver, it's actually a 6-channel receiver, and the G here means that it also has a gyro inside. It's also labeled as gyro inside. And the transmitter itself, it's also very smart from a lot of various points of view, because not only it's built very nice and has a lot of function, but it also has a lot of functionality. And the first good thing is that you can use this with 4 AA batteries, but you know that batteries fail very easily, or rechargeable ones don't have a lot of lifespan. And you can take this thing out, if I don't break it, and look at that, it has a huge space inside, and it uses a JST plug, and this thing will take up to 15 volts, so you can use 3-cell LiPo safe in it, and it will work for a lot of time with that type of battery. And now to continue testing and seeing the transmitter menu, I have did a small test setup here. I have my LiPo battery connected to a voltage regulator. This outputs 5 volts and it feeds the receiver here. And on the receiver I have connected this servo with this arm to represent the movement and see that easily. So this is the main menu of the transmitter. It's very nice that it has a backlight, which is very useful in a lot of situations, and to access the menu you need to press these 2 buttons at once. But first let's take a closer look at the transmitter. So it has a data port here, and you can update the firmware. This is the power button. This is, I don't know what DSE is, sorry, I haven't read the manual, so I'm not ashamed to tell you that. It has streams for 3 channels here. It has an auxiliary switch here and another aux switch here. The transmitter has 4 individual real channels, which you can program as you wish to. This channel is a push button, and it can change its state. This one is a variable cursor, so you can adjust it very fine. And of course you have the steering, which is connected, and the throttle and braking. Of course, this having a gyro, you can also adjust the gyro sensitivity, but that means to program the receiver to use the gyro, and doing that you are going to lose the third channel functionality, and this button here will be used to adjust the gyro. And now with a very thin screwdriver I'm going to push the small bind switch here 3 times, and that means that I want to enable the gyro. So 1, 2, 3, and it goes red and green, and look at that. If I move the receiver, it tries to compensate my movement, so I have steering here and I still have correction from this, and of course I can vary the sensitivity, and now with small movements it makes a lot of movement here, and when I decrease this, even if I make big movements, it will not act that much, so you can adjust this very nice. And now going back to the menu, you have here very nicely displayed the amount that you are using, and let's see, I'm going to enter the menu. So we have language, it has a lot of languages. I'm not going to show you all of them. So on model you have the option to program 10 different models on the transmitter, so you can use this with 10 cars without modifying the settings each time. And now the fun starts, and we have EPA, which stands for endpoint adjustment. Then we have the following option, which is steering exponential. You can adjust how the steering will react. Then you have this one, which is steering speed, and this can add a delay for your steering in case your servo reacts too fast and you want to smooth that out to have smooth control over steering. You can do it from here. Then you have throttle exponential, and you have throttle speed. While throttle speed, it's similar with the steering speed, and adjusted the way the throttle reacts. And let me enable it, and you can see it has a lot of settings here which you can adjust. Moving on, the A.B.S, it's the pulse braking option. This will make the vehicle corner very easily, and you will still have control while braking. It works like a regular A.B.S on a real car. It pulses the brakes and it keeps the control. I'm going to quickly demonstrate you how this works. So I'm going to move the servo from the steering port to the throttle port, and now I have acceleration and reverse. And if I go to the A.B.S settings, you have a lot of things here you can adjust, and you can finely tune a lot of parameters such as the pulse duration, the pulse intensity, if the brake returns to 0 and brakes again, or the brake returns to 1 point and then brakes again, and the interval between them. So it's highly complicated, and you have a lot of the options here and how fast it will cycle and things like that, but I'm not going to explain all of that because it will get too long and too boring. So I'm just going to enable this. I'm going to set it on, and now if I'm going to brake, you can see it pulses the servo, and that will do the same to the ESC. Of course, there is a discussion here. Probably your ESC should be programmed to have only brake and not reverse, or you should play with these settings, and when you are braking you should tell the servo or the ESC that you are not going to 0 and then pulse it back again to turn it into reverse. And you can see by default when I'm braking, it brakes until a point, and then when it enters in A.B.S it will just vary the intensity of my braking, but it will not return to 0, because going back to 0 again it will enable the reverse on some ESCs. So very smart, they thought of that, and the A.B.S will work very good on this model, because on some other models you cannot adjust that, and it will pulse the brake but it will return to 0 and then it will try just to reverse the car, and it can break your transmission. Moving on to the other options here, the acceleration function is related to speed. This will make the throttle jump over an interval and then continue linearly. This is for having a more sudden start or more violent start, if you want that. Let's call it punch. And what else we have here? IDLUP, it's usually used for running gas car or nitro cars. This will keep your idle a bit higher. It's kind of a sub-trim for your throttle. Then you have the servo center position adjustment. You can finely tune that, which is very nice. Of course, you can reverse channels. You have dual rates, and you can set dual rates for throttle and steering, of course. Then you have the ATL function, which is brake side adjustment. This will adjust the braking of the ESC, the braking intensity. The PMIX, it's a program mix. You can create your own mixes between two channels, and I don't know, if you are braking, maybe you want to take a left turn, or when you are braking you want to disable gyro. You can mix all of that, and when you are triggering one channel it will trigger another one. The AUX channel is for programming the VR switch and this button switch here. You can set this to go from maximum to minimum, or this one to have minimum or medium, high, and things like that. The name, an alarm, this is very useful when you are running different type of batteries. The alarm for low voltage, you can adjust the chemistry. It will show you normal voltage, and you can set your alarm for low voltage so you don't lose control in action. The gyro settings here, you can enable or disable the gyro. You can also see the rate here from this variable switch. And almost last is the failsafe function. The receiver comes with a smart failsafe. It will stop all channels in case it loses connectivity to the transmitter. But this is more than that. You can actually program the failsafe on various channels, and for example, if I go to steering and I increase this, I adjust this value with the steering, let's say 40%, and I press enter. This means that when the receiver will go to failsafe, this setting is saved into the receiver, and the receiver will apply 43%. And let's test that. So I'm going to shut down the transmitter. So I'm going to exit the configuration. Last but not least, the last setting is the reset of the transmitter. So now if I'm powering this off, it apparently does nothing because it's my mistake. Now the servo is connected to the throttle channel, and if I'm going to move it back to the steering position, you can see the servo has moved, and if I power on the transmitter back, it will center. So now I have steering, and let's say I have steering right here, and I'm entering failsafe by turning off the transmitter. It will go not to 0 but to my desired position. This is useful, for example, on RC boats. When they go out of range, sometimes it's better to have this set, and also to have a bit of throttle, and the boat will start spinning and will start make larger and larger circles. And by increasing the range of the circle, you have the chance of the boat to enter in signal range again, and then it will turn back to 0 decontrols like that, and you have control to take it back. So that's very smart, and the programmable failsafe, it's a big plus. So this was it for now. This thing is getting too big and it's getting too boring, but I wanted to show you the transmitter, not the installation of the receiver on a RC car. That will come later, and it's easy. You just plug this in and it works. It's more important how the gyro will work on the car, and I'm going to test that. And on this, let's call it episode, I really wanted to show you how the transmitter is working and how many things are different from the FlySky transmitter. So it has a lot more functions and a lot more functionality when you are comparing it with that. So see you soon, and I'm going to definitely upload new videos with this thing working. Until then, bye bye.